Welcome to the Tower Talk podcast, a place for honest and open conversations to support you in living your best life from the inside out. Join me on this journey of self-discovery as we explore what it means to reach next level badassery and cut through the BS. So tune in, stay a while, and I promise I'll be right here alongside you as we figure this shit out together. Hello and welcome to the Tower Talk. I have a very special guest today. And this guest is actually an assistant of mine. She's going to be interviewing me. I'm going to do a little interview with her in the beginning. Emily Feikls, welcome to the Tower Talk. Thank you so much for being here.
It's so fun to be on the other side, not even on the other side of the mic, just to be on the mic with you.
Yeah, this is so fun. Emily's been working with me since last May, and she's been my savior. Honestly, you guys, we wouldn't have this podcast without her. So thank you so much for being here and just being who you are.
It's so fun. I've admired your work and like your presence on social media for years. So to be working like alongside you and helping create and bring things to life has just been so fun and such a gift. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, first of all, let's tell the audience who you are, what you do, and just who you are as a human.
I love it. So in this season of life, I'm doing a variety of things, but I support Tara with like not content creation, but the more like creative side of business and the back end things and admin. And so I've been doing that as like a virtual assistant role. And then beyond that, I do baking business on the side. I podcast, I create content of my own. And I'm just really enjoying this like variety of work that I do that allows me to tap into my creative side and my logical side and the more like administrative tasks and really just create this like full spectrum, broad, just like experience. But yeah, then beyond that, you know, I'm a health and wellness foodie and lover of all things in that realm and just really creating this like fresh life here in Austin over the past few years that I'm just falling more and more in love with every day.
Oh, I love that so much. And where are you originally from?
Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Like middle of nowhere, super small town. And I just knew at the one point, like if I really want to grow and expand, I need to be somewhere where there's like the people, the community, and the opportunities that allow me to like pursue my interests and passions. And that's what led me to Austin.
Had you been to Austin before you moved here?
About 3 years before I moved here, so like 6 years ago now, I came here on a quick trip. And I just remember walking the streets, and I'm sure anyone in Austin or who's been here knows that it's just like such a magical city.
Yeah.
And I remember walking the streets with my friends thinking like, if I ever move or when I do move, this will be the place. And then 3 years later, that's where I went.
What was like the catalyst to actually get you out here? What was like that moment where you're like, all right, let's go? Because I know you got in your car and drove down here.
Oh yeah, just such a long drive with 3 cats and a dog. I think there was a couple things. It was in the midst of the pandemic, you know, and so there was a lot of just like things I think really coming to the surface for us all. And it really gave me the opportunity to look at my life and be like, okay, I've done a lot, I've experienced a lot back there in my hometown, but like what's next? And I had actually, the biggest like catalyst was I had been struggling with like chronic illness for a couple years. And I had finally got it into remission and I was starting to like put my life back together. And I was just like, but it also gave me this like fresh perspective of how precious life is. Yeah. I was like, I've got to go. Like, I've got to get started on this journey and this experience like now, because I've just, for the past couple of years, seen like a different outlook of like where my life could go. Yeah. And now I'm giving this like opportunity to be like healthy again and go out there and just like live my fullest life. Yeah. So I just had this like need and urgency of like, I've got to get started. Like I got to get out there. Yeah. So I packed up and I drove down here and I just started like this whole new journey and chapter. And it's just been beautiful.
Yeah. And I think it's so cool that you made this huge change. I mean, like change is hard. It's scary. It feels very vulnerable and open. And for you to like do that and show up and like create this life is like really empowering. So I hope the listeners out there hear the story and want to make a cool change themselves. Did you drive out here by yourself or were you with?
I had one of my childhood friends drive out here with me. Okay. And that was like an absolute blessing because it was, I think, like a 24 to 28 hour drive. And I'm not a big driver, so.
Yeah, it's a long one.
Yeah, having that companionship. And familiar face along the way was super supportive.
Do you miss home or any of the people there?
I miss my family for sure. We are super like close knit, and they're all primarily still back there. So being away from them is extremely hard. But I don't know. I knew I needed that like fresh environment and to get out of my comfort zone. And I think we've all probably had these experiences where you need to make a change. Yeah. And sometimes like the environment you're in just isn't supporting that. And so I like miss them dearly. And where I'm at now would never have happened if I had stayed in that environment and stayed in my comfort zone and like stayed in like the habits and the patterns that I was in for so long.
Yeah.
So yeah, I miss the people and I miss the mountains. But beyond that, like very happy to be here.
Yeah. And she kind of glazed over the fact that she has this little like baking business. So I want to just share that with you guys. If you're in the Austin area, you have to try her cupcakes and cakes. So tell us about how you got into gluten-free, dairy-free baking.
So I found my way into the gluten-free, dairy-free baking realm, honestly, about probably 10 years ago at this point. When I was a teenager, I had a lot of like health issues come up and started down the gluten-free, dairy-free route. I was like, okay, well now I've got to turn all my baked goods, all my favorite foods that way. So I started doing like some baking here and there, but it was always just like a side passion, like something I did for myself or friends. Yeah. And then this past spring here in Austin of 2023, it was my friend's birthday and she has like an extreme gluten dairy allergy. And she wanted a layer cake, and I couldn't find one that like was up to par with what I wanted for her. Yeah. So I thought, well, let's like put my years of practice in the kitchen to use. Yeah. So I created a layer cake for it. Everyone loved it. They're like, oh, I couldn't even tell this is gluten-free, dairy-free. I'm like, perfect. That's what I was going for. Yeah. And then from there, like more friends requested I do it for their birthdays and like their housewarming party and just like random things here and there. Yeah. And it felt really cool to reconnect with this like root of mine, something that I'd been doing for years. Even as a child, I was baking, but it shifted to gluten-free, dairy-free over time with my own health shifts as well. And then, over the past 6 months, it's just continued to like grow and grow as more people try them. Yeah. And I think especially being in Austin, the need and the desire for gluten-free, dairy-free options is just so high. Yeah. And there aren't really that many options out there for it being such a big city. Very true. So I feel like I'm kind of tapping into that space, and it's been such a fun like side passion, building more and more into like a side project business. Yeah. And just brings me so much joy.
And they're so good. I was a little upset. My friend Nikki, I got her some cupcakes for her birthday and I didn't even get to try them. I was like, do you want to bring, we went to brunch and I brought the cupcakes to her. I was like, oh, you don't want to, like, we all try it. It was a key lime, dairy-free, gluten-free cupcake. They smell delicious, little blueberries. Oh, it was like the cutest. They were so awesome. So yes, I think that this is such a cool passion of yours, and I'm like super stoked to see it like flourish and succeed. Did you cook in an easy bake oven when you were okay?
Yeah. I was like, it's funny. I made a post like a few weeks ago, and I was like, I was the girl having easy bake oven themed birthday parties.
I love that.
Like I've been baking since I was able to, and whether it was an easy bake or an actual oven, but baking's just been such a like passion for me. So I was the easy bake oven girl.
And you're just so multifaceted. Like you do, like you were saying, you have a variety of different things. And is that something that you've always had as well? Or is it something you've kind of leaned into because you really enjoy so many things right now?
I feel like I've always kind of been that way. I was telling a story on a podcast the other day about reflecting a lot on my childhood and even how like when I was a kid at daycare, right? I couldn't just be the kid playing at daycare doing normal things. I was helping them in the kitchen prepare snacks, but I was also like helping them at the front desk, like doing logistics and things. And so I think even reflecting back on a scenario like that, there's always been these parts of me that loves the work I do with you, where it's more, computer oriented and admin and tasks and creative brainstorming, whatever it is. And then like, I love to go into the kitchen and have my time there baking and creating in another way. Yeah. So I think I've always been multifaceted, but the last year, like the more I lean into that, it feels like everything grows and expands. And for the longest time, I tried to like deny that and put myself in a box and niche down because I thought that's what you had to do.
Yeah.
But the more I follow all the little opportunities and really like just not do it all, but like be so multifaceted, it just everything supports each other and it all like works out. So I'm leaning into it.
Yeah. And it makes you feel more human. I think like even as I start to build a new brand and I start to like expand my business, I'm like, no matter what, I want to stay true to myself. And myself means that I am this multifaceted human that talks about all things and does all things because people relate to that and people like trust you and want to hear your stories and hear who you are. So thank you for sharing all of that. I love you as a human and just like, I feel like you have so many cool things that you do and are a part of. So I just appreciate you so much. We're going to shift this into some listener questions next. We got some listener questions on Instagram, and as they keep coming in, we'll do more of these episodes. But I wanted to have Emily come in and actually ask me the questions. So I know like a few of them, but we'll kind of just riff and like just have a conversation about some of these questions. I'd love to hear maybe your side of some of them too. We'll just have some fun with it. So Emily, where do we want to start?
Let's start with, so this is a listener question coming from me, but I want to start off with what is exciting you most in this like season of life? Because I know there's a lot going on and there's a lot of excitement and there's a lot of like, oh, what the fuck's happening things.
Yeah.
But like, what's just lighting you up the most right now? And it can be work related or lifestyle related, whatever it is. But like, what's just lighting you up right now?
Yeah, gosh, this is such a great question. This is going to be like one of the first times I actually say this aloud, but I am building an app and it is beautiful and wonderful and scary and so exciting at the same time. And that is like the biggest project I've ever had in my life, the biggest expense. It's so scary, but it's so big and beautiful that I think about it all day, all night. In the middle of the night, I have a journal by my bed. It's just this project that feels so much bigger than me. And I think that's the most exciting part about it is that for so long, we just talked about personal brand. It's like been TL Method and the Tara LaFerrara brand. And like, this is how I show up. But like in the grand scheme of things, myself as a coach is, yes, I'm a coach first, but like, I want the clients like yourself to feel like they can guide themselves as well. And I want them to feel as though they are the owner of their body and their muscles and how they show up for themselves in the gym and out of the gym. And this is the first time I've really felt like I can step out of it and like give that to them in a place where they feel so bold and beautiful in their own skin. So this app is just, it's incredible, but it's a lot. And it is, we sent an email out this week that was the messy middle. That's where it is. A lot of people see the accomplishments. They see your PRs. They see this Emily having this beautiful, big, bold life, but they didn't see how long it took you to get there. They didn't see how, the process of building out this app and building out this brand. And so that's what I'm really most excited about is like the process of it. And of course, I can't wait to see the finished product and see it in someone's hands at the gym and being like, are you? But it's really fun. It's really exciting. And I think there's a lot of things that are going to ebb and flow, and I'll probably make some really great decisions and probably not. But I think that's the beauty of creating a new product and service that I'm able to share with the world. So it's business, it's personal, but it's really just like this huge thing it's gonna be huge. I'm just like really, really excited about it. So that's the main thing right now.
It's been so cool watching and like seeing things behind the scenes and just the excitement that just exudes from you every time you talk about it. I think it's really cool because this was one of the actual listener questions was they were asking you about like your why.
Yeah.
And that's such a, broad question, but I think you sort of hit it there where, you started your brand and your entire business with this why, I'm assuming, of like supporting women in their own way, of taking up space, all of these things that you share about so often. And it's cool that things can evolve to the point where, as you said, like you've been there holding people's hands and being there right alongside them. And now like, you get to create something that they can really do on their own. And like you're empowering them to like take it into their own hands and you'll always be there. But it's like being able to take a step back and really like watching your your vision and everything you've been building for years really take on like a life of its own.
Yeah.
And I feel like that'll be so exciting for you to like have it in like once it's complete, but also once again to like watch that journey unfold for it.
Yeah. And I think also like with my why is like I've told this story before on one of the first episodes of the podcast, but you know, I went through college and had a really crummy time there because I, you know, gained some weight and binge eating and drank a lot. And my coach sent an email. I tell the story a lot to me, but CC'd the entire team by accident and said that I had to lose weight. And I feel like for years after that, I just tried to make myself smaller. And I didn't feel like I ever had someone there to support me. Like I felt my parents were disappointed. Everyone around me was like disappointed in me. I just felt like I was in this like dark hole for a long time. And I am the coach today because I wish that I had someone like me then. And that is really my purpose and passion behind what I do, is that instead of being smaller, it is standing up for yourself and taking up that space and like being bold and confident in your own skin. And that is really my why, is that I wish that I had the person I am today when I was 20 years old, you know, when I was going through this deep place. And now I want people to know, want women to know that like they can be themselves and they can be strong as fuck in the process.
I love it.
So yeah.
Well, it's cool because I think, you know, you said back then you didn't really have the support and now you want to like be that coach and be that support for people. What's cool though is that like you're able to now do that because you've sought out the support and you've done the work and you've done these things to be to a point where you can hold space for women and you can like be confident in yourself and speak freely and all of that. And I know part of that evolution, or I assume part of that has been your experience with like therapy. And I know you've done like breath work and you've had your meditation background and stuff. So that was also one of the listener questions about like how to maximize your therapy sessions. And I think taking that a step further, just like, let's talk about what that journey has been like for you.
Yeah.
Because I do think that the work you do for yourself and within yourself and of yourself is then what is like reflected and allows you to be there for other people. And I think that's why so many people are drawn to you, is because like they see you, they see the way you show up, they see your energy, and they're just like, I like that, you know, like and you exude that. And with that though, there's like things that you're doing behind the scenes to really like support that. So what inspired you or just like initiated you to go to therapy and start down that journey of like more of the, you know, mental, emotional, energetic side of like personal wellness?
Yeah, this is a deep question because I tried therapy like early COVID. There's an app called Talkspace. Have you heard of that?
Yes. Yeah.
It's like basically this app where anyone can do therapy. It's super cheap. You can just like pop on basically and talk to like whoever's there. And so I tried that because I was like, I know I need this. I was going through some stuff with family, but I just couldn't connect. There was just like this, it just felt weird. And so I tried it for like a month and then I was like, I couldn't get any deeper than that. So a couple years later, there was actually, and I've actually never talked about this before, but I actually re-met my biological father for the first time 3 years ago.
Oh.
And yeah, it's crazy, big story. The last time I saw him was when I was like 7 years old, and he lives on the East Coast in New Jersey where I was born. And we like reconnected. My older brothers and I like reconnected, and it was like so scary and terrifying. And so that's when I originally was like, okay, I got to get back into therapy. I got to like work through this. I met someone in person again to kind of talk through it, and they just weren't a good fit. Like it was the same thing. It was another month of like, it wasn't great. So I met him, which was like a crazy experience. And we saw each other again over the summer. And then after that, it was like, when you're not around someone for like 30 years of your life and reconnect, it's just like this super weird feeling. Like it's hard to even like explain how it is. But that's when I was like, okay, I'm ready to like find another therapist again to like really just talk through a lot of this family trauma that I have. And I found this woman here in Austin, and it was really important for me to see someone in person because I feel like I connect the most with them. And we had one conversation. I was like, okay, I got to give it a try, because therapist is like dating.
Yeah.
You have to find someone that really works for you and you can connect with. And I actually went into one therapy session with her and I was like, okay, I feel really comfortable. I felt really open. I felt really vulnerable. And it was probably like 5 or 6 months later that we actually dove into like what, the deep, like the meaty stuff. And so talking about process, like it does take a while to get there, but like you've got to just stick with it. More than anything, I would give the listeners that is like, stick with the process. I promise you'll get there. And therapy has shown me that this is like what I'm showing other people, is that I have the tools and resources within me. And it's right underneath my nose, but it's like I just needed an unbiased person to give me the ability to share my story and share how I feel and be my truest version of myself without she didn't know anything about me. And it has just been like such an incredible resource for me to, now it's been about 1.5 years. I have created so many incredible boundaries for myself and my family. I have been able to deal with emotions that feel really hard and heavy without, I don't know about you, but I'm such a distractor. I don't want to feel things. So I'll work out. Yeah. I'll go on a walk. I'll put on music. And now I know how to like sit in them and feel them and like work through them. And it's been like such a beautiful thing for me, my mental health, and just like who I am and how I show up for the world. Like I don't know. I wish I did it sooner. But I'm so grateful that I did it when I did. And now I have all of these tools and resources on my belt.
It's just so interesting to me how I think we all find, not all, because not everyone goes to therapy, but whether it's therapy or breath work or any of these like practices, you really do find them or they find you more so like when the timing's right, And even like the way that you tried it before and it just wasn't really a fit. But, it always like, I think happens as it may. And you were in a point of life where like the internal emotions, turmoil, whatever it was just at like such a point that you're like, okay, like I do need to talk with somebody. And it's like, I'm willing to like finally crack open and like explore this because I've like reached this peak. And we see that with people, right? And their like health too, and their fitness things, right? Like things almost have to get to a point until we're like, okay, fine. Like I want to change. I need to change something.
Yeah.
But you mentioned like it really shows you the tools and the resources and the practices that were right beneath your nose and how those have been so beneficial now. What have been some of those practices? Like, I believe, do you breathe with like theta breath work?
I do. Yeah.
So is it like that? And like I know you do like meditation, like you've done it before. So like what are the actual things that are allowing you to like sit and be with those emotions that come up versus going to like the common distractions?
Yes, that's a great question. And I am a mover. And so I do really like to move. Mm-hmm. Yes, I can sit down and breathe. And like, with Theta Breathwork, it's a 30-minute session. Bia was on the podcast. If you want to listen back on that episode, it's incredible. I just love Theta Breathwork is awesome because it is a breathwork meditation session, but it has music. And for someone like me that feels like very scattered and has a lot of stuff going on, the music makes me step out of my body and like be in it. Whereas regular meditation, like if I just have to like sit, close my eyes and breathe, I'm like, I still have a million thoughts and they won't go away. Mm-hmm. I still do some like headspace stuff for like 5 minutes, but I will literally just do my own breathing, some box breathing on my own. One of the things that actually has really helped me recently is going on walks without anything. No phone, no headphones, no nothing, with my little dog. And I can look around at the nature, or I can just like be within my body without any other distractions. Another thing that I do like ebb and flow with is journaling. Mm-hmm. Journaling for me is either I need a prompt or I need something to talk about. For a while, I was like, my therapist was like, oh, just journal. And I was like, yeah, but like what? So sometimes I'll like do bullet points of just like how I'm feeling or what's happening. Sometimes I have a little notebook that gives me like prompts. Mm. And then sometimes I'll just honestly sit in my closet shut the door and cry, like in a smaller space where it feels really comfortable, of just like finding a space in your home to do that, to feel very like in your body and be able to like let your emotions out, is super helpful. Like I didn't even know that. Of course, it sounds so like, oh yeah, like of course you can do that. But I needed someone else to tell me that it was okay almost, which sounds crazy to say out loud. But it's like, oh yeah, I can just like have my own space and like sit in it and cry and like scream or whatever I needed to do,
I mean, it can sound silly. I feel you on that sense, but also like we're never directly told, like, I mean, at least for me, I never had anyone in my life say like, hey, if you need to cry, you can, go to a safe space and do that, whatever it was. Like it was more so just this like unspoken thing, like, oh, you can cry, but we're never sometimes given that like actual verbal permission. And so often that's just like what we need. And I think that's where we can find like a therapist or a mentor or a coach or someone of that degree. Just that like little bit of permission slip of like, yeah, you can do this. I am curious though, taking it back to the therapy aspect, have you ever like cried during a therapy session? And B, if so, like, how did that feel for you? Was it like challenging? Just because hearing you say like even the going in your like safe space to cry, it made me think about how like when I started therapy a few years ago, I would not let myself cry on the sessions. And then immediately afterwards, I'd be like a bawling mess,
Yeah.
Until eventually it got to the point where I was just like, I'll cry wherever.
Yeah.
But I am curious, like, have you cried during therapy? If so, like, did it come natural, or was it something where you had to like give yourself permission of like, hey, it's okay to cry in front of others?
That's so funny you say that. And I think because I am really comfortable with my therapist, I cry every session.
I love it.
Every single session. And I actually don't cry a lot outside of that. And we had talked about this recently, and I'm like, I sometimes will step into the room and just start crying. Because that feels like a safe space for me now. I am like so open, and sometimes I'll like start talking about something and the emotions are so heavy that I will just let it out. So yes, I 100% cry every session. I actually like I'll cry a little bit afterwards as well. But like when we're talking about like some deep stuff, the emotions feel so heavy in there. It's almost like you open Pandora's box when you're in that room, which is how I feel about the closet. And the closet, but I like, I literally just, Teddy doesn't know that I like do this in my closet sometimes. We have our offices are right next door to each other. And he would never judge me if I was crying, but like, he's also like a very kind, sweet man that would be like, want to console me when I don't want to be consoled. I'm like, just let me fucking cry. So yes, I am a very emotional person. Like I actually cry a lot. I'll cry on a random TikTok video or a movie or something that comes up, but it's typically like joyful tears. The deep, like sad emotions don't come up really easily for me anymore because I do a really good job of blocking them. Gotcha. Or pushing them aside, or because life in general is really happy and good, I don't quote unquote need that. And so allowing these spaces for me to like feel them as they come up has been so helpful and beneficial for me to just allow it to be there instead of keep pushing it away.
Yeah, you're like creating a space where they can be felt and expressed while not always just like pushing them away, or while not letting them like, I think it's always safe to like feel, express, whatever, but there are times where you're just like living your life and you don't want to have like a big ugly cry in the middle of the day. And it's okay if you do, but also I think it's so beneficial if you almost, and I've heard this through other, like mentors of mine as well, of like almost like if you want to like schedule time for when those deep cries come up, or the heavy emotions, just like whatever it is, ensuring that you do have like the space for those ones and the happy ones and like everything in between, versus just like shoving it all down or feeling like you're like an open faucet all the time, and your emotions are just bubbling out all the time. 100%. Like there's extremes on both ends, but I love that you have your safe space in therapy and the closet.
And the closet. And I have my space with Teddy, and I have it, with myself. Like there's a lot of safe space that I have right now. And I think therapy allowed me to have that. And there are so many different forms of therapy. There's so many different ways to meditate. There's so many ways to do it. But this has just been so helpful for me and something that I didn't know how much I needed until I was in it. And now I'm just so grateful for it. I mean, in the beginning, I was going once a week. Then I went to like once every other week. And now I'm about once a month. And it feels really good. I feel like I'm in a pretty solid space where there's always more stuff to be working through. And like I can always go more or less or take a break or whatever. But that's kind of the beauty of therapy and meditation and breath work, is that it's always there for you if you need it.
Yeah. You can always revert to it.
Yeah.
I am curious. So part of you mentioned, the therapy really highlighted to you everything that you already had within you, all the tools you already had, they're with you. And then it seems like, you moved from once a week to once every other week to once a month.
Yeah.
So it's almost like this like confidence and assuredness of like what you can do and that you're there for yourself and you have your own safe space within you. And someone was curious. And I feel like you get this question a lot, even through social media, about like your confidence and how you, feel confidence in yourself. And so I wanted to chat about that a bit and just like whether it's, in the more emotional, mental realm of like confident in yourself and your practices, or the confidence in the gym or whatever it is, like, do you feel confident in those areas? Like truly, is that, what people are picking up on? And then B, like, what does that confidence mean to you, like in these areas of your life?
Hey talkers, are you on a journey to feel amazing in your own skin without any pressure or judgment? Well, let me help you fuel up for the ride. Enter Legion Athletics, your new fitness sidekick. These guys aren't just your average supplement company. They're like the supportive coach, Tara, who always has your back, no matter what. Whether you're aiming to feel stronger, more energized, or just a little more badass every day, Legion's got your back. And your biceps, and your abs, and your glutes. Well, you get the picture. Their products, well, let me tell you, they're like a treasure trove of goodness, meticulously crafted to nourish your body and enhance your performance without any unnecessary fillers or fluff. Plus, they taste so good, you'll actually look forward to chugging down your protein shake. And hey, if you're into science, you'll appreciate that Legion's formulas are backed by real research. There's no bro science here, just pure, sweet gains. So what are you waiting for? Embrace the journey to becoming the best version of yourself with Legion Athletics by your side. Head over to legionathletics.com now and use your code TerraTalk for 20% off your first order and double loyalty cashback on every order after. That's TerraTalk, TARATALK, and enjoy the rest of the show.
Such good questions. And I want to actually start with like, what is confidence? Because I want to hear your answer too. Confidence to me is staying true to yourself. It's standing up for what you believe in. It is being able to believe and show your truest self. It is not making yourself smaller. It's taking up space. It's making yourself bigger and bolder. It's, learning when you don't know the answer to something. It's showing up in ways that you might feel uncomfortable with. There's so many pieces to what confidence really is. And I think with that question there, it shows in different ways too. And so for me, the answer to confidence is like being in your own body and showing up as you and believing that you are who you say you are. So how would you define it?
Yeah, I mean, everything you said was resonating. And for me, confidence has been like a big journey, I suppose. But where I've been at with it recently is, being able to show up as my most like authentic, full range self, where I'm not like censoring myself in any which way. And I'm not getting caught up in what others may be thinking or like this, skewed reality that I've like created around me. It's just like, who am I at my core? Yeah. Like, can I be fully her? Can I like fully channel that energy no matter where I'm at, right? So it's one thing for me to be confident with my friends and peers. Yeah. Can I exude that same energy and that same sense of self when I'm in a brand new environment or around new people? And like you said, that shows up in different ways, but it's something I'm still like actively working on. But it is like, to me, ultimately just like, how true to like the most authentic version of me can I be? Yeah. In the way I speak, the way I carry myself, the way I present myself, the way I talk about myself, my work, the way I interact with others, like all of these little like core, like pillars of it all.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I've been reflecting with it lately.
As far as like, do I feel confident in myself? Do I think that I am confident today? That answer is yes, but there's always a time where it can shift. It's like it ebbs and flows, right? I'm not going to wake up and be confident every single freaking day or every room that I walk in or every project that I do. But I think in the grand scheme of things, because I have had, a lot of experience with it, and I do really feel like I am my truest version of myself, I can show up as that human in any room that I go to, in any project that I start. Am I still like very scared to talk in public? Yeah, 100%. And I've been a trainer for 12 years and talk in front of people all the time. Am I still, may I not feel confident in a room full of men? Maybe a little bit, even though I want to be able to like do that. And I know that I can. Will I still feel a little uneasy at Home Depot when they ask me a question and I don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There is like still that piece of it that is always going to be like an ebb and flow too. But I think that in my mid 30s now, like I'm so confident in who I am. And that's why I so appreciate you, is that you are a lot younger than me, but I was nowhere near where you were at your age. I did not feel any confidence. My self-esteem was so low. I felt so insecure, and I just value you so much because I feel like you are this like old soul and have so much like of this confidence that exudes you, which yes, you are still like working through it and stuff, but I was lost, very lost 10 years ago, and it's really cool that there are a lot of people like your age that are like showing up as you. Like it's so freaking cool.
I mean, it helps because I always say this, it's like, I'm so grateful for the generation, like about 10 years plus above me.
Yeah.
Because I've just been able to interact with so many of, like between friends and peers, people I follow on social media, coaches, trainers, like almost everyone in my life. I don't connect with a lot of people younger than me or at my age. It's everyone like about, 5-10 years older than me. And I get to watch you guys, and I see like I've seen like the confidence and the growth and the evolution. And so it's been so supportive for my journey to have people like you that, I see the way you show up on social media, and, that was social media. But then I got to know you in person. I was like, wow, like she really does like carry this energy and this essence with her. Like whether we're in a meeting or we're going to a podcast studio or we're, talking to the barista, whatever it is, like I then saw that like in person, like with you and with others, whatever it is. Right. So I feel so grateful that I've had that to like be a reminder and an example for me of like, oh, I can do that too. Yeah. And I can like feel that level of confidence. But it's interesting. And I wanted to like, I thought it was a good question to bring up because with social media especially, it's so easy to see someone like you, like, oh, she's such a badass and confidence all the time. And you are. And as you said, there's always the but. There are these like moments and lessons and trials that we move through in life where, like you're still sorting out your confidence at Home Depot and, here and with more and more talks. And it was funny, a few weeks ago, one of my friends met you in person. Yeah. And then when he was like conveying the story to me afterwards, he's like, yeah, she's just so confident and like blah, blah. I was like, she is, yeah. And like, she's human like the rest of us, you know? And we all have our moments. And so I think you do a great job though on social media of like showing all sides of you. Yeah. And, you'll have just like all the badass confident content, and you'll share like the very real moments when you're in the gym and you're looking in the mirror, beating yourself up, Yeah. And I think that's just something that, is so needed and so appreciated for those of us that are like following along the journey. So it's so cool that you get to do that. But do you ever like in those moments when you're posting I don't know if it's like vulnerable, but a more like open reel about something that you are struggling with, do you ever feel like hesitation or a pause, or are you just like fully sending it?
Oh, I'm full send, especially on Instagram. I'm like, I show up as I am. I sometimes like the video you're talking about, I think is when I was talking about myself in the mirror and I pretended like someone else was saying that to me. And I was like, my face was red, my hair was all over the place. And I like see that now as like going viral. And like, you know, a lot of people are seeing that. And I was like, I know people could tear me apart. Like I know that people could say that but I was like, I'm going to show up as I am because I believe that as I am is the best and truest version of me because I am not someone that wears a ton of makeup or has fake boobs or eyelashes. Not saying that's bad, but that's just not who I am as a human. And I think that like the more I can show up as that, the more confidence I can feel in myself. And you're talking about, and I think the question really lies with like, how do you get confidence, right? And like, how can my listeners, you guys, get more confidence? And really, like, I will just say this, it's gonna sound so cheesy, but like, put in the reps. Of course, your friend's going to say that I look confident in the gym because I've been in there for 20 years. So I can go to a Gold's Gym. I was just in Destin, Florida, Gold's Gym in this 2-piece outfit, like just walking around like I own the place because that is like my home. Because any gym, I know what I'm doing. I know the machines. I know where things are, even if I've never been there before because like that's my space. But if you were like, go to a jujitsu studio, I'd be like, oh my God. I'm so scared to like, I want to, try. I was like, I really want to try that, but I'm like scared, you know, because I'm not confident in it. So when it comes to confidence, it's like you find something that you want to get confident in and like find yourself people that you can like surround yourself that can kind of mentor you, coach you, see people that are exuding that in your area. And then put in the reps and then just keep showing up when it gets really hard and it gets really scary and you're sitting outside of the gym and you're like, do I even want to go in? I'm so nervous what other people, yes, keep fucking going because no matter what, like it's going to feel easier and you're going to feel better when you're done, you know?
I love that. Yeah. And it's such a good example because then I think also in those senses, you can then, when you put in the reps and you feel like the confidence in the one area or you really find your zone of genius in one thing, whatever it is, you can then like at times when needed, almost like recreate that sensation in your body, recall it and be like, you know, so if you're walking into the jiu-jitsu studio, you could like theoretically, you know, just remind yourself like, okay, this is just like a gym. I'm walking in. You can almost like replay the confidence that you've built up in these other areas or other places and apply it to this like new present scenario.
100%.
And it, you know, it could be other things. It doesn't have to be just confidence, but I love that putting in the reps aspect of it.
Yeah. And like the cool thing about the gym and getting confidence there is that it does, and I say this a million times, but it shows up in so many other aspects of your life. Like you want to have a better relationship with yourself, with your partner, with your friends, with your family, with strangers, because you're able to do so many awesome things in the gym. Mm-hmm. If you can show up for yourself there, like why can't you show up for yourself in all these other aspects? And so that's why like my foundation of what I do with my coaching and training is always going to be with strength training because it gives you that burst of like, holy shit, I can do this. That means I can do this and this and this and this.
Yeah. It just transfers to everything else. And then with the basis of like taking care of your body physically, it supports the mental health and the emotional health and everything else. So it really is like, I think like caring for your body and strength training and gaining that like strength and confidence there. It's just like the roots for every other aspect of life that then like feed off and branch off of that, you know, relationships, mental health, emotional health, all of it. So having that as like the core, I think is just so crucial and pivotal for it.
Yeah. And it's hard to talk about because I feel like I could talk about this till blue in the face. We can go in circles. I'd be like, yeah, strength training. Oh, so good. But you don't know it until you know it. Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, maybe I believe you. Or like even some listeners might be like, oh, okay, cool. Maybe roll their eyes. Sometimes I'll talk about strength training like on Twitter or Threads or something and people aren't there yet. But once you're in it and you see like your first result or you get your first pull up or you get your first XYZ, you're like, I fucking get it. And then you want to keep showing up. Yeah. And that's like, and unfortunately, sometimes it might take a few weeks. It might take months. It might take a year. But then once you get it, you get it. Like, and then you're like, oh my God, I want to share this with everyone. That's how I feel now. And that's how a lot of my clients feel now too. And it's like this little like trickle effect of just sharing it with the world. And that's what I'm hoping and planning to do.
You're playing a big part in it. Yeah. So many people. And then, you know, and then you have it for life. It's one of those things like you're not going to, I mean, you could lose progress, I suppose, but you can always return to it. it's just like such a core foundational thing to build up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so cool. I just got into strength training like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But I remember the moment of it hitting me like, oh, I don't think I'll ever stop this.
Yeah.
Like it hits different.
It's
And
different.
yeah,
I
and
love
it is
that.
cool to see the trickle effect that you're creating through podcasting, Instagram, all the ways that you show up for people.
Yeah.
And it really does spreads in the best way. So
Thank you.
yes. So sort of wrapping things up with this combination of, we've talked about the physical health side of things, the importance of strength training. We talked about the mental, emotional health in the beginning. And someone was curious, they were asking how, in their words, when life gets rough, how do you balance and know when to hustle and when to step back and when to pause? And funny enough, you just did this, and that's what the recent newsletter was about, the messy middle, where, this is a big season for you. There's a lot happening. There's so much happening. And recently you took a trip to Destin, Florida. You disconnected from social media and you took a step back. And then in the words you shared with me afterwards, you're like, and that allowed me to then actually be more productive, more content, all of these things. So with so much happening in life right now, and I mean, kind of always happening in life, how do you find this like balance in between of when it is time to put pedal to the metal and like go, 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 and when it's time to step back and like take your foot off the gas a bit? And I feel like this could even be applied to your physical, like the physical health side of things as well, right? Because you're training for a competition right now. It's probably like go, go, go time. Then you'll probably have like a season of rest. So in general, like what words of advice, wisdom, how do you navigate these like seasons of go and hustle and the seasons of like, let's step back, rest, recalibrate, and like reset?
Yeah, I think that's, there's kind of two ways I was thinking about that question as you were asking it. Number one, the time that I took off social media was mentally, emotionally, physically needed a break. It was one of those things where I needed to just step away from it because I was literally thinking about content in my sleep. I'd be like, oh, this would be really great for a post. Or I would go on Instagram and be on there for 30 minutes and be like, oh, I was just looking for content ideas, and then go down rabbit holes and feel so much worse about myself. And if you are getting to that point, please, please, please delete the app. You can open it back up again, but like just freaking delete it. Like it's not necessary. And so that for me was like, I needed it. I hadn't done it for like 3 years. And I deleted all the apps from my phone for 6 days. And I was like, I have a business to run. Like I can't do this. But I was also like, it's fine. Like it's all going to be fine without it. And it was a time for me to, like be present. Social media allows you to be very future oriented. It compares you to your past. It makes you feel worse about yourself a lot of times. And so for me to step away from it gave me the opportunity to be more present. And so if you are someone that can feel very distracted by social media, myself included, do this more often. I'm going to do this every month for like 2 or 3 days every month that I have to do this, or like have more boundaries on, like, I always say, like, don't bring your phone into the bedroom. We don't bring our phone into the bedroom. We don't bring it at the dinner table. I'm not bringing it on the couch. We're already watching TV. There can't be a screen in my hand while I'm watching TV. And that's something I used to do with my computer all the time. I used to be working on my computer and like have a show in the background. And I like can't do that anymore. It's like so distracting. It's not productive at all too. I also am like, let me have 40 tabs open. Anyways, that's kind of just who I am. So for me, that was a good chance to like step away, be present, and also just like have one thing at a time. Now, the question about like when to go pedal to the metal or like when to like settle in is more just like dependent on where you're at in your life. Like for me, I have this business that I'm creating. I have my competition, which I'm super excited for it, but I'm also really excited for after. This has been really like a lot of effort and work and nerves, and it's really exciting, but I'm also like, I can't wait to take a break out of it after it because I like want to really dive into like the business stuff too. But you can like lean into like what like lights you up. I think that's the biggest piece of this whole puzzle is like, if you're going pedal to the metal to something that burns you out and makes you feel like shit, like step back and be like, why am I doing this? For example, like I have some friends that work for corporate and don't stop working until 9 p.m. And I'm like, what are you doing? Hello, this isn't your business. Like, you know what I mean? So like if you step back and look at it of like, what is this actually for? And is this moving the needle? This needle for me is my business and it is moving, I'm like ready to move with it. But if you're doing it for someone else or because you feel like you have to, like, step back and like decide what you want to do with it. If it's your kids or your family, of course, like they come first and, do what you have to do for them. But at the same time, you do still have to take care of yourself. And as you always know, you can't pour from an empty cup. So I guess it's like the step one, take inventory. Take inventory of what you're doing, how you're spending your time. That was a huge one for me is like the amount of time I was spending on social media was not productive. It wasn't helping me. If you're someone that is like watching a lot of TV, like take inventory of that time. Then take inventory of like what you're actually working on. And then take inventory of like the people around you. I always say that you are like a product of the people around you. And so if those people around you are energy suckers, they are making you feel like shit, they're taking a lot of your time instead of like a good relationship where you can kind of like give and take, those people don't need to be in your life, or you can take a step back from them. So inventory is huge. And then figure out from that inventory, what is the part that like makes you so happy and lights you up the most? And that's where you can shift some of it moving forward. So there's always going to be seasons, right, of like really diving into things and stepping back, but knowing that there's a roller coaster and it can be on the down a lot too. It doesn't always have to be up here because the stress levels cannot be that high forever.
Has to come down at some point.
Of course.
I absolutely love that. Like the taking inventory, even just like the prioritization, getting intentional of like, okay, what am I hustling for? What am I going for? I think that is like the missing piece of that entire question and just what to do in those scenarios. So
yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
thank you.
That was such a
that was super fun.
Full conversation.
I know. I love that. Well, it's like, thank you for coming on the show. Where can people find you? I'm like, how should we end this? So this was obviously like a listener question. It was so much fun that Emily was able to do that. I would love to do this again. So if you liked this type of episode, like, please let us know. Yeah. Send in more questions. We'll do this again. Thank you for sharing your story and being on the pod. And obviously, you guys, again, this podcast would not happen without Emily. And she's the one that writes all the beautiful show notes and helps me put this out. So please, please, please follow us on Instagram at The Tower Talk, at Tara LaFerrera. And what is your handle?
At Emily Feikls.
And so follow all of us. Yes. Rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. The reviews help grow this podcast so much, and we just appreciate every single one of you that listens. Emily, is there anything you want to leave the audience with? Well, actually, no. I have the question that I ask everyone on the show. What is one thing you wish you knew before you started your fitness journey? And let's say before you got into strength training, so it's like a specific timeline.
Before then, I would say the importance of eating enough.
Love it.
Even within starting strength training, I didn't start seeing actual results and progress until I was eating enough food in general and enough protein.
Yeah.
And I will like be on that hill till I die of like the importance of like fueling properly for the training. So I think if I had known that before, I probably could have accelerated things even more so.
I love that. Eat up, eat the cake.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to share with us or anything else?
Just thank you again for me working with you and bringing me along this journey and always being so supportive of like everything I do. And I just want everyone listening to know that like you are as amazing and magical and lovely like in real life all the time as you are on social media. And it's just such a pleasure to know you. So
thank you so much. That means so much. Thank you all for listening. Love you so much and have a great day. Thanks for coming to this Tower Talk. I hope you're taking something away from this episode, and if so, I would love to hear about it. You can connect with me at The Tower Talk and at Tara LaFerrera on Instagram. A few ways you can help support the show and help spread the word. You can share it on Instagram, tag at The Tower Talk and at Tara LaFerrera. Send an episode to a friend, and please leave a review if the show is resonating with you. It takes just a few minutes, and it means so much to help this show grow, and it helps me to continue to bring on badass guests for all of us to learn and grow from. I am so happy you're here and excited to be on this journey with you. Until next time, be a badass with a good ass.